Hello, everyone. Welcome to your live player ratings for Fulham 2, Arsenal 1. Probably our worst performance of the season. And we have quite a few contenders because this season has, let's say, it's not gone to plan. Listen, I said this yesterday on the preview that if we don't win today's game, there was going to be a lot of questions to be asked because this is no longer a blip to me. This is consistent behavior, unserious behavior for Arteta's Arsenal. And as much as I really want to blame the players, I think the players were awful. I do think we have to start looking at the decisions that the manager has made, because a lot of the decisions that he's made on and off the pitch, like with transfers and subs and style and all this kind of stuff, are starting to rear their ugly heads. And like I said yesterday, we'll get into the nitty gritty, but my overall feeling is that since the season has started, it never felt like we started over from last season. It just seemed like a continuation of the run in, right? Everything was stiff. Nobody was relaxed. It seemed like everybody was like on edge. The fans are on edge. The players don't look like they're really feeling it. And we've crashed and burned at the end of the title race again. That's what it feels like. It feels like the pressure was too much and we collapsed. You know, play against Liverpool, do okay, whatever, then play against West Ham, you lose, but you go into the next game and you decide to lose again because it's like the pressure is too much. We could go top, but we could finish fourth and da 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 da. The mentality is not good enough. They don't have goldfish brains. They think about things too long. The losses that they have they just continue on, and we're getting back into that losing in bunches. In the last 5 games, I think we've only won 1. We're dropping points a lot. We've dropped too many points this season to win the title, in my opinion. It's done, As negative as that sounds, the reality is that when I told you guys last season that once we lost to Man City at home, we would lose the title, it ended up being true, because you cannot lose you know what I mean? It's just obvious. You can keep hope alive as long as possible, but the tide is not going in our direction. We are actively slipping away in December from the title race. This looks very similar to Brighton at home, where we lost 3-0 and we just didn't look like ourselves at all. And then when we turned around and lost to Nottingham Forest 1-0 and never looked like scoring, like it's this team, I just think, can only perform when the pressure is off. And the only time that we performed last season was when it was fun. Pressure has been on since minute 1, and they look like it. The fans look like it. Everybody looks like it. And we've crashed and burned. We've crashed and burned because that performance, to me, everybody is saying it's fatigue and it's this and that. I don't think it's any of that. I think the team collapsed from the pressure. I think that the manager is not supporting them with the right decisions to give them the tools to be good, and they're not able to do it on their own. And so, listen, this is a club that's actively saying that they cannot sell Eddie Nketiah because he's such an important squad player. He was horrible today. He was a non-existent today. Doesn't Arteta understand that you cannot remove Zinchenko and Jesus from the lineup and expect to have any sort of technical quality? The thing that Zinchenko and Jesus brought to this team last season was technical ability. When you remove them, we lose a lot of technical ability, especially because there's no Xhaka and Partey, who were superior technical players to Rice and Havertz. So you have Rice and Havertz, Kivior, Martinelli, and Nketiah. Not a single one of those players has technical quality of a standard that we can continue to play the way that we usually play. And that doesn't mean that they can't play, but you need to change your freaking tactics. Do something different. You can't expect Kivior to play the Zinchenko role. You cannot. It's suicide. What are you doing? It's ridiculous. If you're going to play with players that are primarily really good off the ball, then you need to be hitting it into the channels. You need to be playing more direct. But Arteta cannot change his tactics, and he just swaps players in and out and expects the same things to happen. You cannot take Nketiah out and remove Jesus from the lineup and still expect us to play the same. You cannot have Zinchenko out of the lineup and expect Kivior to do those things. Gabriel was doing a lot of playmaking from the back. That cannot happen. If Gabriel and Rice are doing the majority of our playmaking, we're doing it wrong. The entire first half was just them passing the ball around, missing their passes. I mean, simple passes they weren't making, you know? And I just feel like it's up to the manager to set the team up for success, especially when they're dealing with a little bit of lack of confidence. It's the manager's responsibility to breathe confidence into this team. Whether he does that through changing the tactics or an arm around the shoulder or changing the personnel and getting freshness out there. I don't understand why Reece Nelson and ESR are not playing. I don't get it. Why is Nketiah always playing? Why don't they get a run out? One of the players that has come in and looked the most confident, both of them, Reece Nelson and ESR off the bench, consistently. They always look bright, but they get no chances. But you continuously play Martinelli, who's so out of form, but you won't try to do anything different. I said pre the game, if you're going to play Martinelli, you need to let him play through the middle to get him closer to goal and put Jesus out left. But what does Arteta do? He just says, you know what? The problem that we have is Gabriel Jesus and the fact that he's not scoring goals. So I'm going to put Nketiah in to get more goals. Huh? Eddie Nketiah does not equal more goals. It does not equal more goals. It doesn't. It doesn't. It does not equal more goals. I'm so sorry. Like, as disappointed as I am with the players, and I am frustrated. But it's up to the manager to give them solutions to be successful. And we just do the same things over and over again until it crashes and burns. I bet you the very next game, he's going to do something that all of us have been saying doing. Because now that we fully fallen, he'll do something that's obvious. Like play Martinelli through the middle, play Emil Smith-Rowe, play Reece Nelson, because that's always how it goes. He's so stubborn and he waits until it's too late. Too late. Guys, I don't know what to tell you. There's 520 of you guys in here. Make sure you guys are liking the video, subscribe to the channel. There's going to be tons of comments out there. So if you want to make sure that I read out your comment, you guys can, send in super chats, or if you guys are members, I'll read those ones out first. But guys, seriously, I said, so last season when we didn't win the title and everybody was like, what happens if Mikel Arteta doesn't win a trophy? People continuously ask me that, right? And I said, we will know whether or not we have the right manager in about December of this season. We'll know. Because either we'll be in the title race and we will have gotten better, or we will have slid backwards. Look. So listen, I don't really know where to go from here, because I don't really think that I don't think Arsenal I think we lack quality. I think we lack quality in some areas, but I see teams with less quality and managers getting more out of those players. I do think we're starting to veer into the conversation around Mikel Arteta, because really, what are we doing? Today was a train wreck. How do you allow Fulham to score their second goal before you make changes? And why was Jorginho not the first person that came to mind? Why is Jesus not on at halftime? What does Nketiah have on you where he cannot be subbed? He does not equal more goals. He does not equal more goals. It doesn't make any sense, So for me, it's just I don't know. I'm happy to see the back of this team for a little while. I really am. When's our next game? January 7th. So that's not good. We have the FA Cup, and then we're off for a couple weeks. So yeah, it's not looking good. By next week, we could be out of the Carabao Cup, out of the title race, and out of the FA Cup by January. I told you, by December, we'll know. By December, we will know, and it's tough, because from the beginning, people have been like, okay, well, you have to give him time. You have to do this. You have to do that. But at some point, you do have to start looking at the manager, because for me, you can't be the tactics. You can't. You just can't. Under Mikel Arteta, we've only had one good season of attacking football. One. This reminds me so much of the season prior, where if we didn't score a couple of goals early or we went behind, we couldn't win the game. If there's any sort of back and forth where the other team scores, we can't get back. You know, we can't build up. We can't do this. We can't do that. We're blunt up top. It looks a lot like that. And I don't know what to say. I really don't. I don't know what you guys want me to tell you. Like, I don't think we can say that it's the squad and all this kind of stuff. I think we let the manager off the hook too much with that. Oh, we don't have the players. We don't have this. We don't have that. Well, some of the reasons why we don't have the players that we probably need is because the manager is making decisions off the pitch and bringing in players that don't suit the needs of the team. You know? You see what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, all roads to me lead back to, is Mikel Arteta good enough to get us over the line? Because there are other managers out there, whether they're mid-table, bottom, up around where we are, that are getting more out of a squad that I don't deem that's much better than ours. I don't think all these other teams have much better squads than us. We just don't get shit out of the team. We don't get enough out of the squad. We don't get enough out of it. It's been obvious that you need to do something with Martinelli different. You can't just continuously play him on the wing the way that you've been playing him. You either need to drop him or do something different. Continue to do the same thing. Continue to do the same thing. As soon as you didn't have Zinchenko, why are your antennas not on to put in Jorginho? Because you have no control. You have no control in the midfield without him. So what are you doing? Why is Jorginho not in that team? Because then what happens is then Havertz has to drop deeper and be a bigger part of buildup, and that's not his game. How do you not know that? How do you not know that? Jacob, thank you so much for your super chat. It says, I'm sorry, Jess, how can you blame Arteta when they're playing horrible? Don't tell me you are so easily Arteta out. I'm not easily a Mikel Arteta out, because if I was easily Mikel Arteta out, I would have done it 2 or 3 years ago. Like, it's like, yes, like against West Ham, that was mostly the players, because we were creating chances out the wazoo and they just couldn't put it in the back of the net. But today was not, oh my God, they had so many chances and they just couldn't put them away. They were set up to fail today. Arteta didn't have the answers to change the game around. And we've seen this. We've seen this before. So I can give him a little bit of benefit of the doubt against West Ham, but not today. The 2 games are so different. Today, the manager, for me, did not make the changes quick enough, and he didn't make the right decisions from day dot, from the very beginning. When I saw Nketiah, I was like, wow, he really just thinks put Nketiah in, and that means more goals. He has not scored a goal since December 23rd or December 31st of last season. He's not the answer. He's never going to be the answer. That is on the manager. It just is. So to pretend as though he has zero culpability today means to me that I just think people don't want to look at the inevitability that, like, is it out of the realm of possibility that Mikel Arteta just may not be getting it? He's only been, this is his first job ever. The reality is he's not going to get everything right. So when he doesn't get it right, we need to call it out. I'm not saying he has to go, but we have to start having these conversations, because we're 4.5 years in and we're seeing the same things that we saw years prior. There's games like this that I could name games like this, so many games like this, where we just don't even look like us at all. Is that just the players? How many times are we going to change the players and then we're still getting the same things? You know what I mean? So I get what you're saying. I respect your opinion and your super chat. And I'm not necessarily saying Arteta has to go tomorrow. But I'm saying that we do need to start asking questions, because I don't think these players are anywhere near as bad as what we see sometimes. I don't. I think the answers are not being given from the manager. I think the confidence is not being breathed into the team. I think this team has been under immense pressure since minute 1, and they've looked like it, and the manager is not able to create an environment for them to be successful. They just look like a team that's still thinking about last season. And, it's up to the manager to figure out something else. We've changed all the players. We've changed the players many times. So what's the answer, And here's the thing. Here's the thing is, I just think that, like, sometimes what fans want to do is try to hand wave things away, because hard conversations are not easy to have, right? And so I'm never going to shy away from hard conversations, because I just don't think that Arsenal should be in a position where they have a manager for 4.5 years and We don't look any closer to winning trophies, or we don't look sure to win a trophy. We have to have conversations. We're Arsenal, we're not Brighton, we're not young projects, sell your best players, and it's okay if you finish mid-table. It's a slippery slope, you guys. You're either in the title race or you're in a top 4 scrap. And right now we don't look like we're in a title race. So I'm just saying I'm seeing patterns. That's all I'm saying. If it was like a one-off, and this was like the first time in 4 years that we've had, spans of games like this, then I would say, yeah, why are we talking about the manager? But almost every season except for last season, we start losing in bunches. We don't look like we can pass the ball to each other, and we wait until the pressure is off to start playing again. That's the pattern that I see. Anytime, like, remember December of 2021, where I think we went to Man United and we lost, and then we lost to Everton, and I think we lost another game. We lost 3 games in a row. And we fell like away from the top 4 race. And then once we were kind of like behind, then we started playing well again after that. I think this team does not perform well when the pressure is on. I think we lose games in bunches when the pressure is on, and then we wait until the pressure is gone and then start playing again. That's all I'm saying. So, and I don't think this team is as bad as people are making out to seem. I don't think Trossard is this terrible player all of a sudden. I don't think ESR can't play games. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, what is that about? And the mentality comes from the manager. We know that. Brian says, just this team is weak physically and mentally. Where does that come from? So what do? Do we keep Arteta, right? Or not look at Arteta at all and start giving away, start selling these players off again? Or do we start asking questions now? Because we've seen these same performances from multiple, it doesn't, whether it's Cedric, whether, you know what I mean? We see this. So I personally don't think that we should hand wave this into, you know what? It's just the players aren't good enough. Listen, I don't know what to tell you guys. Yuri says, a shot stopper over a ball playing keeper all day. Yeah, I mean, if you want to go back to basics, you can always talk about those things as well. Based on our system and the way that Arteta wants to play, we have a lot of players that we talked about this, like Zinchenko's best abilities are away from being a good defender. Jesus's best abilities are away from being a goal scorer. And maybe you can say Raya's best abilities are away from goalkeeping. And so maybe going back to basics and just having fullbacks that can fullback. Maybe we're overcomplicating things. Maybe having so many center backs playing fullback doesn't work, because it also seems like we have a little bit of a fullback issue too, where we can't seem to change the dynamic because everybody is a center back by nature. And so they don't really do anything other than, kind of look awkward in that position. You know what I mean? So I can see that aspect of things. I think when it's working, it's great. But when it's not working, you tend to want the normal thing. If the defense was playing really well and we were dominating games and all we really needed Raya to do was hit the odd long ball to Kai Havertz, is fine. But when the team is not performing well, you start to look at the goalkeeper like, well, should we get somebody that's a better shot stopper? Should we get a left back that can just defend? And should we just get a striker that can just strike? So we've talked about this before. It only really works when you're playing well. When you're not playing well, then you start to look at those positions a little bit differently. Cass, thank you so much for your super chat. This is funny. You're in Nketiah's lawyer. So how are you going to defend him today? Klopp isn't a galaxy brain genius, but he's managed to build a team that can bounce back from anything. Why can't Arteta do the same? Because it's all about mentality. I do think that, if you've ever played a sport at a decent level, and I haven't played professional, but I played all the way through college. Based on the manager that you had, based on the coach that you had, you could do. I'll tell you a little story. I know that people don't want to hear the story, but stick with me, right? I had a coach named Steve Totoni. We were a good team, but if I had to say what we were most like, we were probably like West Ham. We weren't the best of the best. And before we needed to play a championship game to win it all, we were playing against a team that was much better than us. You know what he did? He bought us all flowers. He took us off to the side and away from everybody else. I know this sounds scary, but it's not. And he just sat us down and gave us the most moving speech. We're fucking 13 or 14, right? And he's playing We Are the Champions. He tells us to close our eyes, listen to that, visualize ourselves as winners, blah, 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 blah. Here, you've already won this and that. You're this good. This is what you're good at, blah, blah, blah. Going through each and every player, why you can help us win the game. Guess what? We won the game. Then I had a coach that before the game, this is another club, we're a much better side than the team that I had left. But that coach consistently told us about how the other team was much better than us. And we lost more games than we should. The coach is so important to the mentality of a team. So important. And so I can't overlook the consistency in which Arsenal get into pressurized situations and don't meet their targets for top 4 title. Now we're crashing and burning now, and not look at the manager. It's a lot of it does have to do with how the coach creates a winning environment, right? And so you can't overlook it. I know some people want to, because it's just like we individualize performances and we're like, okay, well, this was because we didn't have Jesus and this. That's fine. Like those individualized things are there. I can see that. Kivior wasn't good enough. We didn't defend the corner right, blah, blah, blah. But the theme for Arsenal is when the pressure is on, we don't perform. And for me, that's more of a manager thing, because no matter who it is, whether it's Willian and Pepe and Lacazette, whether it's Rob Holding, Gabriel, so-and-so, no matter who's in the team, they all take on the same weak-ass mentality. So for me, that's more about the manager than anybody else. So that's all I'm saying. Chola says, I wonder what Arteta will say about this game. I don't know. I'm interested to see what he says, because he has to take some culpability here, and here's the thing, like people say, okay, well, Rice and Havertz are not as good as Jacques and Partey. Look, I'm open to that, even though I think they have different strengths. Arteta clearly brought in Rice and Havertz because they're better off the ball. So if you have better off the ball players, you need to play a different style. You can't expect those players to do the exact same things. And the problem that we have is that Arteta has not changed his tactics, but has changed the personnel, and they don't have the same characteristics. You just can't expect Kivior and Nketiah to do the same things as Jesus and Zinchenko, but he does that, and then they play terribly, or they don't get the shots, or they give up goals, and then we look at them as individuals. No, I don't think Eddie is good enough for Arsenal, and no, I don't think Kivior is the best left back, but I do think, again, the team is usually set up to fail. You cannot continue to play the same, play players in the same ways. You just can't, there's just no way. It is what it is. T. Cowley says, listen, every match has a blip, of course, but don't lose. We don't want to lose any match, but I'd rather our blip now than in March. I don't know what to say. I mean, I understand that I don't think it's a blip. I'll be honest with you guys. I don't think it's a blip. I don't. I feel like I've seen the same thing every single season. We have a period of the season where we give it away. Every time. Period of the season where we just don't look like we have the mentality to persevere through difficult periods. We're not set up to succeed. Arteta's asking players to do things that are out of their wheelhouse. Like, again, you're asking Kivior, who's a center back, to do Zinchenko things. For me, that's not a blip. That is Arteta not being tactically astute and nimble in a period where we need him to be. That's kind of where I'm at, so that's where I'm at, because I've seen this so many times. So yeah, it doesn't feel like a blip to me. It feels like when the pressure is on, we crumble every single time, and the pressure is on now and we crumble. The pressure has been on since minute 1. Like I said, it never really felt like we let go of last season. The Arsenal perspective says Arteta has spent years with a manager that thrives on pressure, and Pep. He came as a coach. They made him a manager. He should be equipped for this, but he's never managed before. It's different sitting on the bench with Pep and watching him do things. But if you've never done it before, this is why I think people don't think of things like, I'm not saying you, Arsenal perspective, I'm just saying in practical sense, the likelihood of Arteta being really good at his job just off the bat in 4 years of managing is very out of he would have to be like very, very special. An anomaly, a one in a million thing, because you usually have to manage for a while to learn and go through the bumps and the trials and tribulations. So that's why when people act like you can't question Mikel Arteta at all, I'm like, in what world do you come into your job and in the first 4 years you don't get questioned about anything that you do. You've never done it before. So of course, there's going to be times where you are making the wrong decisions. And some Arsenal fans pretend like he never makes the wrong decisions. In what world do we think Mikel Arteta is not making mistakes? He's never done this before, and that is the risk that you take when you have a manager that's never managed before, is they put him into a position where you expect somebody to know how to do certain things, but he's actively learning how to do those things on the job. And unfortunately, Arsenal suffers when that happens. So that's why when I'm like, anytime you question and people start being like, how could you say this? I'm like, he's only been managing for 4 years. What's the likelihood of him being perfect? Unai's not perfect. He's been managing for 20 years. Ten Hag's not perfect. He's been managing for 20, 30 years. Shit, Klopp is not perfect and he's been managing for like 30 years. So what makes you think that Arteta is perfect? Do you see what I'm saying? So that's my main thing. I think this game for me, if you have to do a split, I would say for me, it's probably about 40, like, what is it? How does the math go? 45%? I feel stupid right now. Hold on. Like 30% the player, 70% Mikel Arteta. I just looked at that game and never felt like we were going to win it, even when we scored first. Mike W says, how can our manager be so passionate and it not translate to the players? Is it an overtraining issue? Might be over coaching. It's one thing to be passionate on the sideline, but you have to set up the team properly. We look fine and dominant and good when we have like our main players in the system that can help it tick. We look fine when Zinchenko and Jesus are in the team. That's why when we played against West Ham, we looked fine. We just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. We dominated the game. Rice wasn't there to just Rice was there doing the job that we expect him to do, which is win the ball back and give it to someone else. That's his main job, recycle possession, blah, blah, blah. Zinchenko, as bad as he is defensively, he was getting into positions in possession and helping us dominate the midfield. And Jesus was getting into positions to win it and kind of do his little thing, right? But when you remove those players out and expect to do the exact same thing, no matter how passionate you are on the sideline, the team is not going to click. They look like they've never played with each other before. They look like they never played with each other before. And I don't think that that's just because they just woke up one day and said, well, we're going to be shit today. No, the tactics were horrendous today. You could have seen it from the team sheet. I was trying to figure out how the left side was going to figure out how to play, because I knew Havertz would be deeper, which is not what we want. Gabriel and Saliba are on the ball too much. Rice is being meant to control the midfield and do all these things, but even Partey had the benefit of having Zinchenko next to him most games. The way that we play, you have to have that additional midfielder, It's just, for me, it's just, I don't know. There's 600 of you guys in here. Make sure you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now, let's see. Kenneth says, let's not blame the coach. The players are on holiday mode. If you guys can't see how they were set up to fail, then I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. It's like, I don't think our players are as bad as everybody else makes it seem. I don't. I don't. I think sometimes there's games where they're set up to fail. I think there's games where they're set up to fail. I'm sorry, and today was one of those. You have to be able to see the difference. Against West Ham, they weren't set up to fail. They had all their best players out there. There was as good as we could have gotten without putting Tommy in there, right? Best team that we could have possibly put out there. The balance was fine, whatever. We created all the chances. We just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net, and we made errors at the back. That's not on Mikel Arteta. Today, this is we were not set up properly. I'm so sorry, you guys. The Cosmic Moth says, how can you not blame Arteta? The football was so flat over the last week. And maybe they are tired, but why doesn't anybody else look tired? Can anybody answer that for me? If we're just so tired and leggy and, we just played so much football, then why don't everybody else look like that? Again, we're playing a season where we're meant to go up. We weren't pressing at the beginning of the season. We weren't running. We weren't playing intense football for the whole beginning from September until now, so that we can hit our peak now. And we look flat. Make it make sense. Make it make sense to me. We should not look tired. Stuart says, we'll always get the highs and lows. Footy says Gabriel hit Declan Rice. Did they get in a fight? Kasim says Arteta doesn't even understand his own players. Trossard done well as a false nine, but he plays him everywhere. But Martinelli was the only one doing well, and he takes him off, predictably so. You guys, I don't know what you guys watch. I don't know what people are watching. I'm literally looking at players that are in positions that don't suit them. You know, I'm watching us try to play in a way that doesn't suit the players that are out there. You need to be flexible in your tactics. And one thing, and if Yo-Yo was here, okay, if Yo-Yo was here, I don't think Yo-Yo is here. Probably decided to take Arsenal off, take a break from Arsenal. But Yo-Yo has always said, and always in the chat, always has said that one of the things that Mikel Arteta lacks is tactical flexibility, and that's what we saw today. You change the players; they're not like for like, but you expect them to do the exact same thing. You know. Let's see. The Arsenal perspective says, I think Arteta suffers from stubbornness and inflexibility. Moreover, he lacks the necessary humility and eagerness to learn from his mistakes. That's my honest opinion. I think that's the best way to say it. Winning Way says you get called world class when you win things. I mean, not necessarily. You know, I saw somebody the other day say, no, I don't know. I don't think if this is like a, oh my God, you called Saka world class the other day and now he's not. Saka is a fantastic player who I'm afraid we're going to waste his talent. And my biggest fear right now is wasting the talent that we have and pretending as though this team is not good enough when we need to probably look elsewhere. There are players in this team that I just feel like we can't afford to lose. And so I don't know if this is like a, oh my God, you called Saka world class. Where is he today? I mean, he didn't have a good game, but who did? Who did? You know, I don't know what else you expect. You know, so yeah, I don't know. I think once we get into the part in the season where we get into agendas against our players, we're not looking in the right places, because people in the comments are like, oh my God, you called Saka world class, he's shit. Oh my God, you called Martinelli this and that, he's shit. Oh my God, Rice, you guys thought he was good, he's shit. And I'm just like, are these players actually shit, or should we be looking somewhere else? Because I think we're letting Mikel Arteta again off the hook, because these players are not bad. They're not bad. I'm sorry. So yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Philip says, what do you think our tennis sexuals have to say about your manager who spent something and nothing to show for it? I don't know. Woolwich Gunnar says, Arteta copied Pep's homework, inverting and forcing players into uncomfortable positions. He just doesn't have the tactical flexibility to do this with the players that he has. You just can't continue to do this. And I see these kind of like the easy thing to do, I think, is always blame the players, because it's like, oh, I don't think Saka's good enough. So, you know, or I'm mad because he's played over Pepe, you know, a couple of years ago. So I keep that agenda. So anytime we don't play well, I blame Saka. But I think the bigger problem that we have is this team does not perform well under pressure, no matter who's in the team. This team didn't look like even passing a ball to each other. And we've seen that before. Players that don't play well in certain positions are asked to do things that they cannot do. And we consistently look at the players every single time. And we never look at maybe the possibility that the manager's not getting enough out of this group. And I don't know. Do we need to just get rid of all the players again and start over and start the project over because they're all shit? Or do we need to maybe look at the manager? Because that's the only thing we haven't changed in the last 4 years. That's all I'm saying. By next week, we could be out of basically 3 competitions. We could be out of the title race, because I think we're out of the title race right now. We could be out of the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup. So there you go. Let's see. Let's see. I'm looking at the comments. I want to get some different people. Anton Dunn says, a manager can make the biggest difference to a player's trajectory, and our players won't reach their potential under him. See how guys on the bench are rotting away. I've said this so many times that we just accept that these players are not good and they have no quality. And I'm just like, but why is it that other managers can get a lot out of really shitty players that aren't any good, right? Fulham do not have better players than us. They probably have one, maybe two players that get into our team, maybe on a good day. That's it. But they're able to play a good brand of football, get the most out of, they made changes today. They didn't drop off of a cliff. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I think it's strange that we're the only team that when we make substitutions or we change our team, the drop off is massive. Like they almost cannot pass the ball to each other massive. I think it's strange that anytime we're in a cup competition and we rotate, we go out. I don't think that's just quality because we've been changing these players forever. We've been changing these players since the beginning. We have. Cedric's not playing anymore. He's not, you can't blame Cedric. Holding's not out there anymore. Like he's not getting enough out of the group that we have. And now all of a sudden, a player that we know is good as Trossard is now, oh, he's just shit. Oh, Saka's just not good. Rice is just shit. Gabrielle's just shit. Dodo is just shit. Come on now. Be serious. Eric Toss says most of these players are going to leave in the next 2 years if we don't win anything. I'd rather keep the players and I prefer the players over the manager. Does that make sense? Like I prefer to go again with these players than continuously pretend as though there's maybe Arteta's not making any mistakes. That's all I'm saying. Let's see. Nicholas says that the Wolves manager is doing more with less. This is on Arteta. This game for sure is on Mikel Arteta for me. What you gonna do says, what you gonna do? That's a good name. Says Arteta started with Trossard up front to link up with Saka. Trossard was involved in all 3 goals against Fulham last March. Why was he on the bench? I don't know. He's just a shit player. That's what everybody's telling me. It was a mirage. Trossard has never played well in his life, and we just bought a bum. That's what they're telling me. Second Joe says you cannot disregard experience. Would you let a surgeon that has never operated before operate on your loved one? Need a seasoned manager with winning pedigree. I think at the very least you need somebody with I think you at least need somebody that has tactical flexibility and can deal with not having world-class players in every single position, because at Arsenal you're going to have to deal with players that maybe aren't world class. Like you're not at City, so you're going to have to get more bang for your buck. You're going to have young players that you need to help develop, and you're going to have players in your team that are maybe not exactly what you want. You're going to have to get something out of them. And I just find it strange that the only player that he tries to get a lot out of is Nketiah, but he's not trying to get anything out of Emile Smith-Rowe, who's a superior player. He's not trying to get anything out of Nelson, who's a superior player. He has totally destroyed Trossard. Like it's just, I don't know, and to me, these questions are very valid because listen, we've seen this story before, I don't know. Temi says Declan Rice is not captain material. If you cannot get yourself extra motivated to play against your former team instead of show up timid, you're not my captain. Last week, you guys wanted Rice to be captain. Listen, I'm just gonna say the real is I don't really care about the Rice being captain bullshit. Like he never should have even been considered to be captain at this stage. And quite frankly, I don't think him not having his best game against West Ham is a reason why he can't be captain. It's not like Rice when he first got here he dragged us over the line in multiple games. So let's not forget, we don't beat Manchester United without him. We definitely don't draw against Chelsea without him. We definitely don't get shit against Manchester City without him. And we don't get anything against Liverpool without him either. So to me, this is just like, let's stop. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's just stop. But how many players do we see come to Arsenal and start off good and then start to fall off a cliff a couple months later? Just saying. I'm just saying. Players say Rice is the best player of the season. Exactly. Like the lowest level analysis I think you can always have is the players. Like I think that's like the lowest, especially when you've already changed the players over. Like let's take Manchester United for example. They haven't switched over their players completely yet. So they can definitely look at some of their players that are trying to get the manager sacked, blah, blah, blah. Arsenal have switched the players over a couple of times already under Mikel Arteta. We've rebought in certain positions many times, right? And so the lowest level, I think, analysis that you can have is every single game looking at who didn't play well and just blame them without looking at overall themes coming from the most consistent person that we've had here is the manager that we've had for 4 years. So to not look at him and just to go, well, Rice, he had a bad game against West Ham, so fuck him. Like for me is the lowest level analysis that you can have. Lowest level, because it just, for me, just lets the main guy off the hook. The main guy, you know? Philip says, we are out of the title race and Liverpool will beat us in the FA Cup. Chosen One says, Jess, I always try to be nice because I love those guys and I still do, but they really need to do something this transfer window. Otherwise, I don't know if we're going to be able to challenge for the title. They've said they want to buy a defender. So they want to buy a defender, and next is midfield and next is attack. But, you know, they said that Nketiah is so important to the team that they won't even consider selling him. They're cooked. Like, if this is what we have until the end of the season, we're not going to make it. It was already looking like that even when we were playing better. But now, you know, I mean, Rice and fucking Gabrielle were chirping at each other during this game. Like, the mentality is just on the floor to be in January already. Like, it's only January, barely January. And we're already getting into fighting with each other. All is not well. All is not well. And Mike says, be patient. It hasn't been the best month, but we can get back. We need to keep our faith in the team. My problem with this is that usually we get it back after we've fully gotten ourselves below. You know, we start playing again once the pressure is off. And so I would imagine that maybe we'll lose another one. We'll go out of the FA Cup, come back from the winter break, and we'll see. You know, it's not the end, but to win the title, you can't have dropped as many points, you know. So I think anybody thinking logically about the title would start to reconsider whether or not we could actually do it from now. It's not negativity, it's literally just the facts. Like, you cannot have dropped this many points so far, and you know, we dropped so many points, you know. So you have to be damn near perfect to win the league, and we haven't been anywhere near. So that's all I'm saying, you know, about the title. Now, the FA Cup, I told you guys when we went out of the Carabao Cup, we'd get the hardest draw that we could potentially get, and we got Liverpool. So are we going to go through that? I don't know, because Arteta will probably rotate, and everybody will say, well, it's okay that we went out because we rotated. So I don't know what to tell you guys. I really don't. Lionide says, this is not about buying new players. It's about unleashing the handbrake Arteta made. I agree. To me, it's to consistently always make it about player FC because Pepe didn't get a chance. And, you know, I've always hated Saka for it to be because I'm so mad that Emile Smith-Rowe is not playing. So it has to be on Odegaard because I love Ramsdale. So I got to blame Raya. It's so low level analysis. I can't, when you start to see consistent themes, you have to start talking about those because we're talking about a 4-year catalog here of the same thing happening every single season. Pressure is on. We crumble. Players playing in positions that don't suit them. The tactics are inflexible. Players look like they can't pass to each other. And we can't be tired and leggy in December. We cannot. We cannot. You know, we cannot. It makes no fucking sense. The Mad Hatter says, if his goes much longer, I'm open for a new manager. Listen, I don't know what we do. You know, this is the instant reaction. So my instant reaction is what it is. Maybe I'll feel differently tomorrow. I don't think I will. You know, I'll be honest with you. So yeah. But if you can think logically right now and kind of think glass half full, then fine. But after you have your best ever chance at winning a title and you bottle it, and then this is what we're looking at this season, I don't know how anybody can think anything other than maybe it's not the players, maybe it's something else, you know, but I don't know what to tell you. Kasim says changing managers is easier than replacing players. Changing managers is easier than replacing players. And I do think at the beginning, you cannot allow players to sack managers off. But these players have not been in that cycle of sacking managers off. I think that old group that we had, you know, didn't help Arsene, did not help Unai, and then also tried to get Mikel Arteta sacked. So you have to get those toxic players out. But now we have a group of players that are not toxic. They're young, they're talented, and we're talking about, oh, if you change the manager, then that's the only thing we haven't tried. That's all I'm saying. Here to there says new manager who. I'll take AirPod Albert right now. I just think we're not going to change the manager now. The season could be a write-off, if we go out of the Premier League, or not the Premier League, if we go out of the FA Cup for me, and I feel like we're starting to get into the write-off territory, right? We could get a couple of players back. We can get Thomas Partey back. Tomiyasu doesn't help us score goals, and then you lose something in possession because our system is really built on Zinchenko. So, I don't even think like players coming back necessarily is like something we have to look forward to. We don't have like key players up front that we're missing anymore. Like we have our best starting attack. We have the midfield that we have. Like, do you see what I'm saying? So I don't I don't really know like what could change from now into the end of the season, in terms of players coming back. If we bring in somebody in December or in January, it will be a defender. Let's be serious. So we can't look at changing the manager until the end of the season, right? Um, we can't, but it has to be on the table. Um, if we go through the season and we're in a top four scrap, we didn't get through at the FA Cup, we went out of the Carabao Cup, and we go out of the Champions League. It has to be. Faya says Zinchenko is a big part of the reason we're losing points, but he didn't play today. So he didn't play today. The problem that people don't seem to understand with Zinchenko is that ever since he posted what he posted on social media and when he cried and got nutmegged, the whole narrative on Zinchenko has changed so much that people cannot see obvious things in their face. Is that when Zinchenko doesn't play, we cannot play. Whatever he doesn't give you at the back, like it's not like Kivior was so much better defensively, was he? Like he wasn't. Like even if Zinchenko gives away a goal, he still helps us build up to the place where we're actually creating chances. We don't create chances without him because we don't have build up. So I don't know what to tell you. So Zinchenko may be somebody that you don't like, but you should be excited to see him on the team sheet because this is your reality when Zinchenko's not out there. Be serious. Theta says at some point we're going to have to stop demanding for new players every time we lose a game when we challenge Arteta to actually utilize his squad properly and try to find solutions within. That's the only thing we've never looked at, Saida. That's the only thing that is off the table. We can talk about getting a £100 million striker. That will solve all of our problems, but it won't solve our problems if we're tactically inflexible, when we can't find solutions within the game to help us win it, when the players look bereft of ideas. Like those things are on the manager. So that will not change just because you get better players. This team is not incapable of fighting for the title. Can it win it? I don't know, because Manchester City are still better than us, right? But this team is not incapable of fighting for a title. It's just not. Like this team can do it. But God forbid you look at the manager and even ask any questions. It's more than just sell Eddie. It's more than just sell Eddie. It's stop playing Eddie. Like, stop playing him. Or when you play him, change the tactics. Martinelli does not play well with Eddie and Nketiah, never has. But we continuously put that partnership together and expect something to happen. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. Blaze says, Jess, Arteta already said in his press conference today is the worst performance of the season. He will probably cuss the players. He needs to start looking in the mirror and cussing himself. Because how many performances have we seen of like this? And if he doesn't take any responsibility, then I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it is all on the players, but I don't think it is. I don't think it is. I don't think it is. And Adam is saying like if Timber was fit, I would drop Havertz and play Zinchenko and Rice in a double pivot. The thing is if his entire system was built on Timber and he got the ACL, then it's kind of like, I feel like that's almost like karma. You cannot have a system based on a fullback. You cannot. You cannot. Because if that person gets injured, then everything goes out the window. And I have a suspicion that everything was based around having Timber being able to invert, and he was going to solve the Zinchenko problem, and he was going to sit next to Rice, and then you're going to be able to push Havertz forward. And when you remove that player and you don't have Zinchenko, then everything is finished. You cannot have Havertz in a position where he needs to be almost like in a double pivot, which is how he played today. Odegaard was higher, Rice was by himself in the midfield, and Havertz was dropping in, trying to help him build up, and so was Kivior. That's not going to work. It's not going to work. I don't know what to tell you. Like, you see what I'm saying? So if your entire system is built around a fullback, you've already lost. You've already lost. You've already lost. So yeah. Um, let's see. The Arsenal perspective says, here's my take: 60% manager, 40% coach. Who to blame for today's defeat? High Tech J says Liverpool's entire system is built on trust. Trent, is it not? I don't think so. I don't think it's. Do you think Liverpool would not be able to create any chances if Trent wasn't there? Do we actually believe that? Even like, let's say that let's okay, let's say that it is and Trent wasn't there. Do you think Klopp wouldn't be able to figure out something? Do you think he would not be able to figure out something different? Like I really do think that like we are really overthinking things. And also, Liverpool's entire system is built around Trent. Maybe that's fine for them, but Trent is not injury prone, right? So you're relying your entire system on a fullback that's injury prone. And Klopp is also a world-class manager, so you also have to take into consideration that even if Trent was out and their system was flawed, he'd be able to figure something out, but Arteta's doesn't have flexibility in his system. I think Klopp would be able to figure it out beyond Trent, you know? So yeah, High Tech J says Timber wasn't injury prone when we bought him. Not Timber, Zinchenko. Super Kai says, I don't think the club will sack Arteta because he is their poster and narrative for young manager with young group of players. They want to work so badly for the story. However, the books end. Yeah. I don't think they're gonna sack him. I don't think there's anything he could do this season to be sacked. I don't. You know. But I don't know. 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 Um, I think a lot of I think at the end of the season, if we don't win anything and we fall away from the title race and all that kind of stuff, and it's kind of like, whatever season, I think more fans will be upset than maybe the club. And that does tend to start making a difference. But at the end of last season, when I went to the Wolves game, there was like a feeling of like of immense disappointment. There was definitely like it was down, and I can understand why. At the beginning of this season in the stadium, there was a feeling of like lack of belief, a lot of like tension. And so if you're already feeling it in the stadium, it will not be a nice place to be come the end of the season. You know what I mean? But let's see what happens. But we can still turn it around, but I don't know. I don't know what to tell you guys. Football says our Arsenal system last season was building around Partey, Xhaka, and Zinchenko. And if you're going to change those pieces and they're going to be completely different pieces, then you have to change your style. You have to change the tactics a little bit. And I just don't understand when we don't have the players. I just don't understand when you don't have the players that can play the technical way that you want to play. How come you don't play a more direct game? You know what I mean? How do you not switch it up a little bit to make those players look better? I don't think Arteta ever does anything to make the players look better in the system. I think that's why he cannot use Emile Smith Rowe, because Emile Smith Rowe is so different than the other players that it's like, you can't do the things that I need you to do, so I just don't use you. It's like, I know Trossard is not really a touchline winger, but when I put him in, I'm going to make him be a touchline winger and then expect things to be okay. If I know that our system thrived on fluidity last season and Martinelli and Saka needs players to play off of, instead of putting them closer together, I'm going to put them as far away as possible and remove Jesus from that and expect it to work. Like, I don't know how you guys are not seeing these things and seeing how he's actively playing against us and still be like, well, it's just the players. Like, it's just not. So yeah. High Tech J says we go long with Raya all the time. Yeah, but why is it the case that nobody from midfield just pops it in behind, and we run onto it and play more direct? Playing more direct is not just Raya kicking it long. Because basically every single team just allows us to build up. They don't even press us anymore. They just allow us to get into their half and say, break us down. That's exactly what Fulham did. They didn't have a deep block, they had a mid block. And so why is it the case that we can't be a little bit more direct? You could play it off of Havertz and, put it down, kind of like how we did against City, where you play it forward from a midfielder, they knock it down and they play off a broken play. But we still tried to build through Fulham with players that can't build through. So don't disrespect me, and say, oh, well, we played long with Raya when you know that we actively did not do anything direct in that game beyond kicking it long every once in a while from the goalkeeper. Don't disrespect me. I know it's like we're trying to make it seem like, I know people are trying to make it seem like it's not ever the manager, but sometimes it just is. So I don't know. I don't know why people continuously try to protect somebody that obviously makes mistakes. I don't know what to tell you. We don't play long. We don't change the tactics. We don't do anything different. We do the same things every single game, no matter who's out there. John says, is that harsh on Rice by Ian Wright? He was saying his passes to the back often loses the ball, and when he passes forward, he didn't have a good game. So, I don't know. Like, maybe it's harsh, maybe it's not, but listen, Rice was due a couple of bad games. He can't save us all the time. Chosen One says, just maybe it's formation tactic thing. I feel like having our wingers hugging the touchline makes the offense look stale. Saka and Gabby have extra work, have work extra hard, even to look like scoring no flow. I mean, you have to allow your players to get closer together to combine. And so if they're really far away from each other, then they can't combine. And then when you add Eddie into it, you definitely make sure that they can't combine. And then when you have Havertz behind Martinelli and also Kivior, you completely destroy the left-hand side. So I don't know what to tell you. It's just the players though. They're just shit. That's just what people are telling me. Here to There says spot on, and Kedia, Havertz, and having Kivior still invert is a recipe for disaster. No, but I'm just waffling, guys. No big deal. Listen, just keep blaming the players, guys, and see how that goes for you, because I don't think it's the players. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Let's see. Lion Eye says Rice constantly playing the ball sideways or backwards. Yeah, maybe it's just because Rice plays the ball sideways and backwards. Tito says Xhaka and Partey are missed. No, Arteta needed to change the system away from, you cannot expect those players to do the exact same thing as Xhaka and Partey. Again, even if you want to say it's, well, Rice doesn't pass the ball forward enough and Havertz doesn't do Xhaka things, is that on Havertz and Rice, or is that just Arteta not using the players properly? All roads kind of lead back to Arteta for me. I cannot be mad at Rice and Havertz for not being Xhaka and Thomas Partey. I can't. When you bought those players, you said, I want to change the system and do something different, but you're trying to do the exact same thing. So why do you expect good results? I don't get it. When, especially if you don't have Zinchenko and Jesus, because then you have no technical quality at all. That's all I'm saying. So Winning Way says Edu has only bought one good South American to our squad, not including Jesus. To me, that's like the least of our problems. Not bringing in a South American gem is the least of our problems. It's something that a couple of weeks ago felt like it was important to me. It's not important to me at all right now. The problem we have right now is that, like, even with the players that we have, the manager can't get a lot out of it. And so it's looking like it's just about the players. I don't think it is. But even if you give him an additional player, defender, in January, how does that help us with everything else? How does that help us, when Zinchenko's not playing or Jesus is not playing? How does that help us build through the thirds? How does that get Martinelli and Saka closer together? How does that help us? Like, I don't understand. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm having such a hard time understanding how, like, I thought the transfer window was going to be our biggest problem. That's not even, I don't even think that's our biggest problem anymore. Like, we have a bigger problem with the manager not being able to figure shit out, Because like, okay, like, do you guys see what I'm saying? Like, if you have Kivior there and you know that he's not a good technical left back, like, you probably just want him to do fullbacky things, like just win his duels, right? Just win your duels and find somebody else to pass it to, pass it up the line, whatever, help him build up, but like not invert. Why is the natural choice not to bring in Jorginho, somebody who can help you and build up, who can see the pitch? Why do you ask Kivior to do the Zinchenko role? He can't do it. You're killing him. 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 I'm sorry. Like, do you see what I'm saying? Like, how can anybody look at that and say, well, Kivior was just shit today? You're asking somebody to do something that only one person on the planet can do. Only Zinchenko can do that role. Only Zinchenko. It's a very specific fucking role. Shit. Do you know what I mean? High Tech J says Jorginho has no physicality. So basically what you're saying is that Arteta did everything right. Is that what you're saying? Because every single thing that I've said, no offense, High Tech J, but you've come back with some like quick response as if you're defending Mikel Arteta's choices. So because Jorginho has no physicality, it makes sense to not play him and to make Kivior try to do the Zinchenko role, even though Zinchenko's the only person in the league that can do it. Is that what you're telling me? Is that what you're telling me? You guys, you gotta start thinking beyond the individual like player. Like, you have to start thinking beyond it. Sometimes it is the players, but sometimes it's like, do you expect Kivior to do well in Zinchenko's position? Do you? Kivior was all the way in midfield receiving the ball from Saliba and Gabriel and expected to find the pass. He was expected to see the pitch from there. Only Zinchenko can do that. What are we saying? What are we saying? Like, I don't understand what people are saying. Kivior could end up not being a good player. Two things can be true at the same time. Kivior just may not be good enough for Arsenal, but Arteta actively puts him in positions that don't suit his skill sets. So until he starts putting him at left center back and he plays terribly at left center back, I'm not listening. I'm not. Until Trossard plays more central roles, like playing center forward or play left wing, but is more closer to the goal, not really hearing you anymore. Because these players are not playing in positions where they can do things. Like, they're just not. I don't get it. Stuart says, we don't have to panic. All will be well. I mean, we don't have to panic. I'm just frustrated, so I'm going to probably just accept the season as what it is, because anybody with any sort of like, anybody who can look at things logically can see that winning the title at this stage would, like, winning the title from here with what we've seen so far, a miracle would need to happen in order for us to win it from here. Like, that's beyond the panic. Like, that's beyond being reactionary. I felt that after the West Ham game that we had fucked it. I did, because I'm like, we've already dropped too many points. We know how the title race goes. It usually goes. You cannot drop points. Last season, we were like damn near perfect and we still didn't win it. You see what I'm saying? So I don't know how you can say, like, if you can see it, we're out of the Carabao Cup and we're almost out of the title race. We're basically like we're not out of it, but the likelihood of us winning it, like, how all can be well when Arsenal need to be winning trophies. The reason why people are frustrated, I think, mostly is because we are not Brighton. We're not Wolves. Like, we're not Brentford. We're not the type of club that can go so many years without winning anything. We can't, And so you go trophyless this season, and that's 4 seasons on the bounce with nothing. When you're in good positions to do so, when you've been fully backed, And so even though I get it's like all is well and it's not the end of the world at this moment, but you can sense danger. You can sense when things are not going right, And I was really patient at the beginning of the season and was kind of like, even though things don't look right, maybe it'll all click into gear. We're basically in January now, and all is not clicking into gear. It's actually getting worse. Do you see what I'm saying? So I don't know how to say all is well when you just kind of can see the writing on the wall. I I don't know what to tell you. Christopher says Arteta has had enough time. Our attack looks the same as the day he took over. And we've only had one good season attack wise under Mikel Arteta. I think that's also something that when you have 3 seasons of bad attack and then you have 1 season of good attack, you can kind of start maybe making the assumption or making the argument that maybe Arteta is not good at attacking, or he doesn't know how to coach a good attack, right? Every single season under Mikel Arteta, except for last season, we were really poor in attack, and we had 2 players really overperforming their XG last season, in Odegaard and Martinelli. Now that those 2 are not overperforming, it's kind of gone back to what it was the season prior, where we're just not scoring enough goals. Like the season prior, when we missed out on top 4, we didn't score enough goals. And the season before that, we definitely didn't score enough goals. So 3 out of 4 seasons, like this is why when people are like, you can't question the manager, it's just the players. This is somebody that always wants to buy defenders, doesn't really buy attackers, right? But has only had one good attacking season when 2 players were overperforming. So what does that tell you? Does that tell you that the players are just crap? Because there's other teams that are scoring goals and are more clinical and, they look more like scoring with less good players. Martinelli, I'm sorry, you guys, like Martinelli, Odegaard, and Saka are not bad players. I will not accept that as what it is. Martinelli goes to Liverpool and smashes it. Saka, whenever he plays for England, he smashes it. Odegaard is fantastic. So I'm so sorry. Like, you have to look somewhere else. It cannot just be that these players are not good enough. They're great. Like, they've only had one good attacking season, and some of them weren't even here in those first 2 seasons that Mikel was here. So if the attack is just never good except for one season, then who's that on? Do you see what I'm saying? Muna says, does Arteta have personal beef with ESR? Yeah, I think he wants him gone, man. Like, I don't really. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, if you don't play a player and there's so many opportunities to play him, you just don't rate them. Winning West says Odegaard ain't better than Ozil. I don't care if he's better than Ozil or not. He's a really good player. So, like, the thing is like saying, oh, he's not better than Ozil is kind of like, well, who is better than Ozil? Kevin De Bruyne? What does that mean? Like, what does that mean? Player of the century says Arsenal has the best wingers. They do have really good wingers. We know that we have really good wingers. I don't know why we're trying to pretend like we don't, because we're mad. Like, be serious for like 1 second. But you know what we really should do is let Saka go. He can go to City, because if we don't win anything, he'll go to City, and then people will be like, oh my God, he's playing so well at City because he's fantastic. Martinelli can go to Liverpool and smash it. Odegaard can go to PSG or Bayern or wherever team wants him, and then give Arteta more attackers and then see what happens. See what happens. I would love that for you guys. I would love that for you guys that are actively sitting here in this chat and are trying to make it about the individual players instead of looking at the common denominator. Arteta's only had one good season with attackers, no matter who it's been. He doesn't know how to coach a good attack. Like, he needs to figure it out. Junior says, and guess what? By not playing ESR and Nelson, he continues to devalue the market for those players. Then we sell for pennies and complain about FFP when we're trying to make signings. Mesfin says today was very sad. It was very sad because it was not unpredictable. I did not get the feeling before the game that we would win it. I didn't. Even when we scored, I was like, we're not winning this, because Fulham are playing us off the park. They were much better than us. They had more energy and they wanted it more than we wanted it. And to be in a title race and not look like you want it is really not acceptable for me. It's not okay. You have to want it. You're at Arsenal. You have to want it. So even though, yes, I think the players didn't play well and they have to look at themselves in the mirror, I will ultimately look at the way that we were set up. And I'm like, were we set up to succeed or to fail? We were set up to fail. So it's not just the players, it's also on the manager. When we played against West Ham, I don't think they were set up to fail. So I mostly blame the players because they got into good positions and fluffed their lines. This team was just like, I don't know. And I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to tell y'all. I really don't. I don't know what to tell y'all. We just out here talking though. Jamal, thank you so much for your super chat. I really appreciate you. Says Arteta's favorites look burnt out already. I don't think he knows how to manage the squad over the course of a season. Do you think that they look burnt out physically or mentally? What is your feeling on that? because a couple of games ago when we played against, I think it was Brighton, that wasn't that long ago. That was after Villa, wasn't it? We played against Villa, then we played against Brighton, then we played against Liverpool, then we played against West Ham. I don't think we look burnt. I don't think we look burnt out and tired against West Ham. I don't think we look burnt out and tired against Liverpool, and I don't think we look burnt out and tired against Brighton. I think it's a mental thing. I think it's mental. I don't think the team ever really got over last season and started the season fresh. Even in preseason, I think we all felt it. It was like something about this doesn't feel right. Something about this is not it, And you just have to, we don't have goldfish brains. Get over last season and start playing. Like the fact that in January we've had one performance where we look like we were free of trouble, and that was like Lens. Every other game it's been so like, I don't know how to describe it, I don't know how to describe it, but I don't think this team mentally got over what happened last season. And yes, it was a huge bottle job. It probably soul crushing for them. It was terrible. It really was. And so, but it's up to the manager to figure out a way to get these players back into a good state of mind and refresh. But hasn't it felt like the run in the whole time? Answer that. Like, hasn't it still felt like the run in? This whole season has felt like the run in. You can't lose a game. Every game is stiff. Oh my God, everything is panic. It's just, I don't know. The season hasn't felt good. But I mean, they can have a totally different second half. They can. But players bickering in December, just completely crumbling. I haven't really seen. I've seen our Arsenal team kind of do this before. Like we play okay, and then we crash and burn in December, and then once all the pressure is off, we'll start to win loads of games when there's nothing to play for. And that's kind of, I think, where we're going. Because if you've been an Arsenal fan a long time, you know the pattern. You're under pressure at the beginning of the season, you crash and burn midway, and then once there's nothing to play for, you start to play well again when the season is gone. So that's kind of how it feels to me. Sorry. Only as the day says something happened in 2000. Jamal says the players are mentally burnt out, not physically. That's what I think too. I don't think that these players are physically burnt out. Andrew is asking if I'm doing player ratings. No, I'm not. Because what are we going to talk about? I mean, if you guys want to do player ratings, we could just sit there and go through the players. But like, let's be serious. Like everybody gets a 0. Like they were all terrible. Like nobody leaves the game with any sort of shred of like whatever. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, no. No. Nope. No player ratings. Nope. Mike, thank you so much for your super chat. Says Arteta has ran out of ideas. Teams have figured us out and he needs to adapt. We've been asking for that for a couple of years though now. We've been asking for not doing the same thing, one trick pony every single time and having a plan B. At the end of last season, we should have figured out a way to do something different because we saw at the back end of last season from December on, everybody had figured out how we played and we were less effective. Now that the players are not scoring as much, it's becoming even more apparent that we need to have different ways of playing. And it cannot just be if this player is not in and this player is not in, we don't look like a team. Every other team can rotate and have different players in their team with different characteristics and still look like themselves. If our team is so heavily reliant on the individual qualities of Zinchenko and Gabriel Jesus, we're finished. We're done. Or the individual qualities of Granit Xhaka and Thomas Partey. Thomas Partey hasn't played all season and Xhaka doesn't exist. He's not a player for us anymore. So the system cannot be heavily reliant on those players' characteristics. It just cannot. It's not a strong system if it is, And yeah, when those players are in there, we create a lot of chances, but all you have to do is just take those players out and we just don't look the same. That's unacceptable at this level. Aston Villa, no matter, do you guys really think that like sometimes they play with McGinn in the middle and sometimes they play with Tielemans? Sometimes, they have Jacob Ramsey in there. Sometimes they don't. They have like 5 or 6 midfielders that rotate rotate between those three positions. But is it ever the case that Aston Villa just don't look like playing? Like, they don't look like that. The level may drop a little bit, but do they look like they cannot even pass the ball to each other? Even like, I'm thinking about teams that are not Man City and Liverpool, because we know that they can do it. We know that no matter who's in there, they still have their principles and they still pretty much look dangerous. I'm talking even Brighton, a team that we slapped up not too long ago. They rotate their players all the time and they have different characteristics. Is Gilmore the same as fucking Lallana? No, they're not. You know, they lost Caicedo and lost McAllister, and they still are doing the same things. They still create chances the exact same way. It does not make sense that, like, Zinchenko and Jesus don't play, that we don't even look like passing the ball to each other. But that is how he's built the system, and it's failing us because not only the system requires two players that are in poor form. So even what they add doesn't necessarily push us over the line in Zinchenko and Jesus, but when they're not there, we can't play, you know? So but no, just get rid of the players. Just get rid of all the players again. Like, I can't do it. I can't do it. Curtly says, because Emery is an experienced manager, Arteta is not. He's just coach posing as a manager. And here's my thing. It's like, how are people not seeing this, that somebody 4 years into their managerial career is going to be, we should be questioning their decisions a lot more, because the likelihood of them getting everything right is very what's the word, unlikely, right? And so when you have an experienced manager, they can create a system and the system is there. And yes, when the quality of a player is not the same, it will dip, but to the level to which we cannot play without certain players is unsustainable. It just is. Nobody has that. No one. No one has that. No one. Name a team that has that other than Arsenal in the top half. Doesn't work. I don't know what to tell you guys. He can get better from here, Arteta, because he's still new in his job. But my question, my feeling has always been, and I've always gotten in trouble for saying it. People have always been so upset when I say it, but I don't know if we have the time to wait for Mikel Arteta to make these mistakes and allow certain players to leave, because this club is not going to be able to buy another Saka. This club is not going to be able to buy another Saliba. This club is not buying another Declan Rice. So you have to get the most you can out of these players. It is easier to maybe look at the manager. And the project should not be based around Mikel Arteta. The crown jewel is not Arteta, because he's not Pep. Man City's crown jewel is Pep. Liverpool's crown jewel is Klopp. Our crown jewel cannot be Arteta because he's not a world-class manager, right? So you have to start looking at the players that you have and say, would I rather have to buy another Saliba, Saka, Martinelli, whatever? Or can we start looking around and say, how can we get just 5% more out of what we've invested in, right? And I don't think that that's a question that should be so off the table. It doesn't have to mean that he gets sacked tomorrow, but it's definitely a question that should start being spoken about now, because like Wolves, no, not like Wolves, like Bournemouth, right? Bournemouth got absolutely slated for sacking Gary O'Neill. Even I was like, oh my God, they sacked Gary O'Neill. That's not, why would you sack him? Like, he saved you, right? But they're so much better now that they got a new manager in. Not because Gary O'Neill was so bad that he had to go, but they acted quicker before everything fell apart. Most teams wait until things fall apart to start even asking the question about a manager, right? We're not going to do that. We're going to wait until it's so painfully obvious that we need to make the decision. And by then, we may lose some of these players that everybody's trying to tell me are crap, and they're not. They'll go to other teams and they'll reap the rewards of players that we should have been able to reap the rewards from. And that's something that I can see in the very near future, because people can't see beyond Player FC. Player FC is so lame. Get over the fact that Pepe didn't play. Get over the fact that Smith Rowe is not playing. Get over the fact that you love Ramsdale. Those things are not as important as getting the most that you can out of Saka and Martinelli and Saliba. Those players are so important. You're not going to be able to rebuy them. Not under the Cronkies. We don't have that type of money, So come on. Like, start thinking deeper. Start thinking deeper than, oh my God, Saka had a bad game today. Saka goes in the market today. He's at Manchester City tomorrow. If High Tech J says, you thought the same thing in 2021 and we almost won the title if Saliba didn't get injured. Yeah, I did. I thought that we should have sacked Mikel Arteta in 2021 and we didn't win a title. So that means nothing. So you saying we almost won a title in last season doesn't really mean that we shouldn't have sacked Mikel Arteta in 2020, 2021 when we were sitting in 15th. Like, come on now. Like, come on. Like, let's be serious here for a second. We didn't win. We didn't win the title. We didn't win the title. So saying we almost won the title is nothing. It means nothing. It means nothing, especially when you were like 8 points clear in like February and you end up finishing 5 points behind Man City. It means nothing, you guys. It doesn't mean anything. Why are we so beholden to Arteta and not beholden to the players? I don't understand. To me, the players are better than these players with a different manager is closer to winning things than new players with this manager. The Arsenal perspective says, what are we, the almost champions? People need to get real and very quick. It's not that I don't like Arteta. I think we've been very patient. I think we have been very patient, but when you start to see consistent themes and it's not just a one-off, I don't know. Boy says, just sack Arteta. It matters that he isn't playing ESR because ESR solves a problem for us right now. Dale says, how ruthless are the Cronkies? That's the ultimate question. Adam says, notice how Martinelli looked better with Xhaka in support and Saka looked better with Partey in support. Odegaard looked better as a result of having them both behind. Even if you don't think that Martinelli and Odegaard are world-class players, because I think people focus on that a little bit too much. I don't think that Martinelli and Odegaard are world-class. I think that they're players with the right type of instruction, the right players around them, definitely are some of the best in the league, just like they were last season. So I believe that if somebody can create that for them again, that they could do those things, right? And so I just feel like it's focusing on Martinelli and focusing on Odegaard right now feels very short-sighted when I just know if Martinelli went on the market, he would go to another team and absolutely smash it. Odegaard as well. It doesn't mean that they're world-class players and they're KDB and whoever else you guys love. But that doesn't mean that, like, the other teams around us don't have players that are necessarily that much better than Odegaard or Martinelli, but they're getting more out of them. So I don't know why we're focusing on the individual players at every single moment and not ever looking at the fact that, like, okay, maybe they're not world class. Maybe they're, a step below, but we're not even getting the best out of them right now. And why is that? I think some of that is Martinelli because he's clearly not in good form and he's lacking confidence. But when you continuously put him in the same position and don't drop him or, change things, I feel like you're just deepening the wound. Martinelli probably needs to be sat, or Martinelli needs to play in a different position or in a different tactical setup to get maybe something different out of him and have him answer different questions, but right now Arteta's just like, you're still going to do this. And if you don't do it, like, you're just fucked, but that's just me. Eric Flores says, I see a team of conflicting egos because they do everything they need to except for in the final third. Nostradamus says, end product with our attackers are poor considering their ability. But that's the thing. It's like, but Martinelli and Odegaard are not world class. What does that matter? You don't need, they don't need to be world class for us to be doing better than what we're doing right now. So what does that even matter? What does that matter? Odegaard and Martinelli are closer to being world-class players than Arteta is to being a world-class manager. That's what's more important. So I don't get why people are focused. I know people don't like Odegaard. I get that. They're still mad that we didn't get Maddison, but that's why we can't have honest conversations because people are too busy being upset about things that happened in the past. So yeah, Social Join says the end product is because we don't have direct strikers. We don't play balls in behind. There's no clinical striker. Yeah, we don't play balls in behind. And with a team that you have right now that doesn't have the technical quality that we had last season, you can't try to build through the thirds the way that we did last season. You have to be more direct. And we were not direct today. We were not direct. Salvatore says Odegaard is just shit, Jess. Well, he's just shit. There you go. Anybody who thinks Odegaard and Martinelli are shit don't know anything about football and should probably start watching a different sport. As mean as that sounds, you don't know anything. Like, saying somebody is shit is saying that what should be in the championship. What does that mean? Like, you literally don't know anything about football and you're just mad because we didn't get Madison. Get over it. Like, move on from that. Like, it's pathetic. I'm sorry. I know that sounds so mean, but like, wake up. Like, Odegaard is not a shit player. Wake up. Wake up. He's not. Nuances of Fate says it's Arteta's fault. Let's be honest. Here, some of his signings are extremely questionable. Kenneth says, what you want, Jess, the coach to be sacked? I think it's a conversation that needs to be on the table. I don't think he should be so safe in his job. That's what I mean. It's a conversation that before was never really even on the table because he needed time. He hadn't built his squad. He hadn't gotten the players that he needs, things like that. And so it made more sense for that not to be a part of the conversation around how Arsenal can become better. But now we're about to be in 2024. This is his fourth full season, and he has built his team. He's made huge decisions especially this past summer, huge decisions on how to allocate the resources that no other manager at Arsenal has ever gotten, 200 million to spend. And those decisions have not necessarily made us that much better. And he is still making the same mistakes that he was making in year one. He's inflexible. He plays players out of positions. He doesn't know how to do his in-game management he doesn't know how to change the story of the game by making dynamic substitutions and changing things tactically mid-game. And he actively kills the players that are on the outside of the starting 11. And so they're rendered useless. So we go out of cups early. And when we need those players to come in and save us or help us, they're not able to do it, i.e. Kivior, i.e. Trossard, i.e. Emil, i.e. Nelson, i.e. Fabio Vieira. So for me, like, it's just a conversation that needs to start being considered. Not necessarily has to be sacked tomorrow, but he definitely shouldn't be that safe based on the last 4 years. That's what I'm saying. It's not as black and white as sack him tomorrow for me, but I'm definitely not thinking that he's somebody that should be so safe in his job like Pep and Klopp, because he's just as safe as them right now, where they wouldn't even consider moving him on, would not even consider it. And I don't really understand why that's the case, because we've spent so much money on really good players and we're not getting enough out of them. That's how I feel. So Nostradamus says, just throwing it out there, but which manager would you go for instead, being realistic? To be honest, I don't even know, because you have to get a manager that could get something out of the players that we have. And the players that we have are, they're going to want to play like a possession style. Like, it can't be somebody that thrives with, like, can't be like a Simeone type. He would not be able to. I don't think he'd be able to do it with these players. But it should not be out of the realm of conversation. Like, do you see what I'm saying? Like, it shouldn't be like Graham Potter really struggled to get Brighton to that next level where they could get into European football. And they brought in a manager, not a flashy manager, but just somebody that was different, that could get just 5% more out of the group that they have. And they got into Europe. Obviously, they're not as good as they were last season, but it's because they're playing in Europe and they have to spread the team out across more competitions. But that's all I'm saying, is that there probably is a manager out there that could get maybe 5% out of this group. And that's all that's really needed. This team is not, we're talking about the difference between being a team that wins trophies and a team that's just around the trophies, if that makes sense. So it's just about 5% more. And I don't know who that manager is, but I do think that Arsenal should consider it. It cannot just be keep buying the players. You know what I mean? Jean-Yves Lafon says, Exactly, Jess. Arteta is lacking the boldness of Klopp, ruthless tactical drive of Pep. His passiveness and has deranged, defangled, defangled our offense. Teams are not scared of us. That's all I'm saying, y'all. That's all I'm saying is that it should not be out of the question completely. It should be something that's on the table as a way to get Arsenal into, and the Cronkies should be looking at it because, listen, they've been willing to put up a lot of money that they weren't really willing to do with Unai or Wenger, so they've really put a lot of faith in Arteta. And I feel like with most managers, you have to do that. You have to give them an opportunity to get their team in place. Like, you can't just hire, sack, hire, sack, hire, sack. I don't think that's the right thing to do, but we don't hire sack. We have given him a lot of time. And so instead of giving him 200 more million, maybe think about how you can get the most out of it, because maybe you don't need 200 million at this stage. Maybe you just need a striker. Maybe you just need a striker and one more midfielder. Maybe that's all you need, and a different manager. That's all I'm saying. Social Join says, Josh ain't gonna keep giving money. Exactly. I agree. Eric Flores says, I'd say it's the manager because it's the game within the game that Arteta lacks notice or acknowledgement because these players don't even mix things up themselves. They're trying to beat man 1v1. T Yep says, damn, y'all should calm down. He's in 3 points from top halfway of the season. But again, what I'll say about this T Yep is that doesn't, when you're not the best team in the league, we're not the best team in the league. We're probably the third or the fourth best team in the league based on what's happened this at this half of the season, right? Being third, like 3 points off of the top, does not seem insurmountable, but we were 8 points clear last season in a 2-horse race and we didn't win. We're 3 points off the top and maybe a 4-horse race. So unless they get worse and we get astronomically better from now until the end of the season, we're not winning the league. And those are just the math. Like, that's just the math. We've been here before. So it's really giving, like, once we threw away the title and we were only like 5 points behind or 3 points behind Manchester City, we were doing this like, oh, well, we could still do it. Man City could just drop points and then we could overtake them. But it didn't happen, did it? Because we know our team. This Arteta's Arsenal do not get the job done. Like, that is a feature of Arteta's Arsenal so far. So that's why I think people are very, like, jaded. I think that's why people were leaving, the West Ham game early, is because they're jaded. They know. They're like, I'm not seeing a title winning team. I'm not seeing a team that can come back. So yeah, it's not over, but this feels very similar to when we were 3 points behind Manchester City after we bottled the title, and everybody was like, they could drop points and we could win, and we went on to lose to Brighton and we lost to Forest. Boom. Title done, 187 says Liverpool will be 5 points ahead of us tomorrow. Exactly. Here to There says Arteta's post-match interview says he got the transfer question and was clear on players we have now. Exactly. Like, even last season when we tried to win the title, we went and got Jorginho and Trossard. It wasn't like we went out there and got, a world-class player to take us over the line. So we're nowhere near it this season. I can definitely see them being like, well, we have this plan for the summer. We know our team, Jamal says it's not over technically, but it's over. Exactly. Like, let's be serious. Let's be serious. Like, that's all I'm saying. The McChronicle says, honestly, I'm at the point of not giving Arteta any more money. He's probably just going to waste it anyway. I would love to just see, just even for one game, I said this a couple of games ago, I would just love to see another manager and what they would do with this team. Like, how they would set us up, how they would get more out of the group that we have, how they would use Kivior, how they would use Trossard, how they use Emile Smith-Rowe. If Emile Smith-Rowe would instantly become a more important player than he has been under Mikel Arteta. I would love to see those things because I just feel like you could get more out of this group. I'm not as convinced on the lack of quality that people say that we don't, that we have. We do lack quality in some positions, but it's nowhere near what we're seeing right now. I would just love to see it. And I know you can't see it because that's not how things work. You'd have to get rid of Mikel Arteta, but I just have a feeling that if you gave them more freedom up front, you allowed Saka and Martinelli to switch positions, you didn't make things as complicated. You only had maybe one player out there that's playing outside of their position, not 4 or 5. You know what I mean? That we could get more out of this group. And also somebody with experience. We lack winning know-how. Like nobody in our team right now has really been a winner. Like, and when I mean a winner is somebody that's been integral to their team winning. Arteta hasn't been integral to his team winning because Pep wins no matter who's beside him. Um, you know, uh, we know Gabriel Jesus and Zinchenko were not integral to City winning. They would have won with or without them. Like we really lack that. So that's all I'm saying. But if I had to pick between keeping these players and seeing what somebody else could do with them, or keeping Arteta and getting rid of some of the players that we have, or allowing them to leave because we don't win, I'm choosing the players. I think they're better than what we see. Nostradamus says Smith Rowe helped Arteta keep his job. Now Arteta is going to sell him for less than Willock and Iwobi. Rep 187 says our attack lacks intensity all season and it's all on Arteta. Here to there says with our wingers and false nine like Jesus, Arteta should be playing more like Klopp than Pep like the start of last season. We were a lot more direct last season for sure. T-Ep says Arsenal fans are so ungrateful. Typically, we would have been out of the title chase by now. I don't know what you mean. That's your reality. In your reality, we've always been a team that only fought for top 4, and we were outside of the top 4. But for old heads like me, I remember us always being a title challenging team, and oh, by the way, winning trophies, whether it was the FA Cup or the Premier League, always. So my reality is not coming from an ungrateful one. It's coming from this is not the Arsenal that I know. The Arsenal that I know doesn't talk about almost winning trophies as if that's something that we should be proud of. My version of Arsenal is not, oh my God, well, we would have been in a top 4 scrap instead of a title race if and what. That's not my reality. Getting back to the Arsenal of old is winning trophies and looking competitive and not crumbling in December. It's just not. That's not my Arsenal. It's not, And TF, you must have started supporting Arsenal in the Emirates era because I don't know if you know this, but prior to 2006, we under like Arsene and even in the George Graham era, we fought for titles and we won them. We won the FA Cups. We were one of the best teams in the country and we did not crumble in December. We had a top quality mentality. We had some of the best players in the world in our side. We could rotate and it didn't matter. Our squad players kept us in cups. Like, that is my reality. So you may have just started watching in the Emirates era, but this is not my Arsenal. This is not my Arsenal. My Arsenal does not say, well, we almost won last season, so why are you being ungrateful? The Arsenal perspective says, who is Arteta saying is at fault for today's abysmal performance and result? Well, let's go look and see what he said because he probably didn't say anything. Declan Rice says there's been a blip in the road. There's no need to panic. There's still so many games to go. We need to stay positive. This is not the time to be negative. We've got a great manager and a great set of players and we'll keep going. Whatever. I don't. Oh man, I don't believe. I want to believe, but I don't believe y'all. I don't believe y'all. I want to, but I don't. Yeah, I don't. But that's great for you to say. Our players talk a lot, but they don't show it on the pitch. That performance was, it wasn't one. And after you lose to West Ham, we're slipping into old patterns where we lose in bunches. And this is how you lose things. Like when you lose 3 on the bounce, you don't limit one loss to one loss. That's how you end up at the end of the season, 1 or 2, 3, 4 points outside. You have to stop losing games. You have to. Stop losing. It's ridiculous. Um, let's see. He says it was a painful defeat and a really sad day. 3 days ago, we lost a game that we totally merited to win, but today feels really different. We weren't anywhere near the level and we didn't deserve to win the game. Not at all. In this league, you have to play at a really high level for 100 minutes, and we haven't done that today. I don't like to find excuses, especially when we lose. We could have played much better than we have done, and we haven't done it. So that's the reason why we lost the game. You also didn't set up the team properly and expected players to do things that are not good at, but it's just we didn't play at the level. The loss saw us miss out on an opportunity to move top of the table as we ring in 2024. Big opportunity missed. Today, we had a chance to be top of the league after 20 games, and that tells you the consistency and the quality that we've shown in the first half of the season. But the reality is that today we are in pain because we have lost a game playing in a way that we don't want to. We have to reset and take that defeat away with us. It was painful for a few days, but we have to move on. This team does not have a goldfish memory. They have to let these things go and stop letting one loss become three, because it will be. It will be West Ham, Fulham, and then go out of the FA Cup. 3 losses, and then we'll start winning from there. That's always how it goes. We always lose 3 on the bounce. Or that's how we were not last season, but the season prior. Be serious. But I don't expect Arteta to say anything outside of we just didn't play the way that we were supposed to play. I hope internally there's somebody saying, listen, like, we need to do something a little bit different. We have to get Martinelli going. And if you're not going to be able to do it tactically, then you need to put in somebody else that can give us something. Martinelli is so important to what we do. Whether you like him or not, losing his goals is costing us. So you cannot just continue to play him the same way or and keep him on the pitch. Like, you just can't. I don't know. It's crazy. The Cosmic Moss says, always talking about performances and no tactics. Whereas says, we need a striker and we'll start firing. You guys can improve your attack, but your fullbacks are shit the bed. We don't, whatever. Whereas says, oh, I already read that one. Second Doge says, great manager based on what exactly one FA Cup with someone else's squad that was spun into fans, a mess of the squad. I think that Arteta is a good coach. I think he's a good coach, and he's found a way to he's found a formula that works, but he has not found the tactical flexibility to deal with players missing and players being out of form. And he's stubborn, and so as somebody that's new to management, I don't think you can be stubborn. I think you have to be open to changing things. And a consistent theme with Arteta is that he's wanted to play this way from the very beginning. And it's worked one season, but out of the 3 other seasons, it hasn't really been as effective. But he's never really changed things or been tactically flexible. His idea is we play this way, and if it's not working, we change the personnel, despite the personnel not having the exact same qualities. And that's not good. Sample says, Jess, given you always rated Saka as world class, how can he have not produced performances over the last week other than the lucky goal today? I mean, if you're just going to say his goal is lucky, then I don't know what to tell you. Like, somebody that's consistently giving us end product, goals and assists, cannot continue to carry the team on his own. Other players have to step up. And so I don't know how you can come out of this game and Saka be the first thing on your mind. It just feels a little bit like anytime we don't play well, it becomes on Saka because I'm mad that Pepe didn't play, or I'm mad because whatever, Saka scored a goal today. He got the end product. Like, he was shit today like everybody else. But if Saka leaves Arsenal and goes to Man City, you guys will be crying. So get out of this player thing. It's so ridiculous at this stage that we constantly look at the players now when we know these players are really good. If they're not world class to you, they're not world class. But to consistently think about Saka when he always carries us, he's carried us for like 3 seasons, and not to maybe look at, I don't know, Nketiah, the most average player on the planet, starting games for Arsenal. I don't know what to tell you. You're looking at the wrong things. These players cannot consistently be expected to carry us when what is everybody else doing? I don't get it. But at the same thing, like, I don't understand the lucky goal thing either. Like, I feel like if anybody else gets that goal, you're not really calling it a lucky goal. You're in the right place at the right time. No matter, it doesn't really matter. Does Saka have to score a worldie every single game for him to be considered a good player? I don't get why we're constantly talking about what has Saka done to you personally, Samful. What has Saka done to you? Did he steal your girlfriend? Did he call your mom out of your like, what did he do? Because I don't understand how every single game you come onto the chat and you start talking about Saka even when he scores a goal. How make that make sense? Today was not on Saka. Be serious. Be serious. Kenneth says, I never really look at the coach. Now I'm listening to you. I'm starting to see I'm starting to see what you're saying, and I'm honest with you, Jess, you're right. I'm not trying to change anybody's mind. I'm just trying to say that, like, you may think it's more the players and it's not the manager, but it's definitely not the manager. That's what I'm saying. So yes, the players need to play better, and they had a poor game, but players are going to have poor games. But what I cannot accept is players being set up to fail consistently, no tactical flexibility, allowing the squad to just, like, the players that are in the squad that are on the gray areas not, be used properly. Those are things that I can't accept, you know? And I just personally think the players are better than the manager. The players are closer to being a title winning team than Arteta is to being a title winning manager, you know? And so that's where I'm at. I'm not trying to really change your mind. I'm trying to just at least open up the scope a little bit more beyond, oh my God, I hate Saka. So whenever we don't win, I'm just going to come in the chat and start talking about Saka not being world class. What does that have to do with today's game? It doesn't. The McChronicle says before Emirates, Arsenal had won 13 leagues, 10 FA Cups, 2 League Cups, and a Cup Winners' Cup. Exactly. That's my Arsenal. Chosen One says, Jess, I saw a tweet that said the offensive game plan is pass the ball to Saka and Martinelli and hope that they beat 3 players on them. Here to There says Saka's goal was a good team goal, a good piece, and only a good, like, it was a good counterattacking situation. And we scored a lot of goals like that last season. In fact, I think we scored one just like that against Fulham last season. It might have been called offside, but those are goals. They still count. It's not like the goals that people have been scoring against us are worldies. Like, goals count. Like, I don't understand why that matters. Only As the Day says Saka is a good player, but he's been poor this season and he's still getting end product. So I don't know what to tell you. But no, it's not on Arteta. It's just the players. Move Saka on. Let Man City have him and see how you guys feel about that. You guys will be crying. You guys will be in this chat saying, oh my God, I was so wrong about Saka. As soon as he got a world-class manager, he became a lot better. You think? Like, you know what I mean? You think? Be serious for 1 second. Frank says league title winning players rarely have poor games. I think these players are closer to winning the title than Arteta is to being a title winning manager. I stand by what I say. I don't know what to tell you. I think people want it to be the players because it's the easiest low hanging fruit. Blaming the players is very low hanging fruit because it allows your agendas to agenda and you don't think critically about anything. Like, people are blaming Zinchenko defensively and we still conceded 2 goals. Like, get off Player FC. It's boring now. Whereas says putting Saka up on a world-class pedestal at such a young age and you guys wonder why he buckles under the pressure. Fine. It's on Saka. Today's game was Saka. That's what I'm hearing. Here to There says compares to the movement and patterns of play even Poch has installed at Chelsea. It's shocking how much more predictable and stagnant we are compared to even Chelsea. No, Here to There. It's just the players. Odegaard, Martinelli, and Saka are not good. And so move them on. Like, move them on. Like, are you guys not watching the game? Like, be serious. Kenneth says, yes, that feeling from last season. So yeah. But yeah, you guys, we could have done player ratings. That would have been probably more useful to you guys because then we could have just talked about how Saka was a 0 and he's not world class, and Martinelli is a 0 and he's not world class, and Odegaard is a 0. He's shit. But for me, this game is more about a growing theme that when the pressure is on, Arsenal don't perform. The tactics are terrible. There's no movement in the front line. it's like you expect players that don't play that way to play similar to players that are not there. Like, that was what I saw today. That's what I saw today. Just like a couple of games ago when it was like we're creating all those chances, obviously because we had our better players. And when you have Zinchenko and Jesus and you create a lot of chances, but we weren't clinical. So we're finding new problems all the time. You have your good players in, you create the chances, but they don't put them away. But when those players are not there, Arteta doesn't have answers. He expects Kivior to do the Zinchenko role. For me, that is enough to be so, like, that is enough. That is enough to make me sick to my fucking stomach. You guys, I'm going to get out of here because we've beat this to a pulp. Unfortunately, we have to do the FA Cup now, and I don't know what to tell you. I told you guys when we went out of the Carabao Cup, the very next team that we would get in the FA Cup would be difficult. We couldn't get Wigan. We got Liverpool. We're at home, but I just don't get the feeling that this team is going to be able to persevere beyond their own mental fragility. You know what I mean? So I don't know, but I cannot wait for that break after the 7th. So we'll obviously do some build up to the FA Cup. It's a whole week from now. It's a whole week from now, so we have plenty of time to talk about this, but also the January transfer window opens tonight, or it opens today, or whatever time it is for you guys. I don't know. It opens tomorrow, whatever. And so I'm pretty sure we'll get the Arsenal are not expected to do any significant business soon, but we'll talk about why that's probably the biggest mistake that they can make. Take care of yourselves. Enjoy your New Year's. Please be safe, you guys. I'll say this, like, as much as some of you guys have been on my last nerve today, you guys know I'm just joking. I love every single one of you guys, even if we're not getting along. It's just like the meme. It's like, I may be mad at you, but I still care when I'm putting the umbrella over your guys' head. Please be safe tonight. Do not do anything stupid. Do not drink and drive. Don't overconsume. None of that stuff. Make good decisions. Make good choices, because I want to see you guys back here tomorrow. I want to see you guys back here the day after. Okay. So please take care of yourselves. Do not let Arsenal ruin your New Year's. Go into 2024 with a positive outlook, even if you don't have a positive outlook on Arsenal. I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.